Work forces me to train my own replacement. So I do, with the same effort they put into hiring him. My first job out of high school was doing the landscaping for a posh hotel near my hometown. I loved the job and the work was often demanding but rewarding nonetheless. After working there a few years, the hotel was sold to a businessman as the owner wanted to retire to Florida. The new owner had a gambling addiction and a drinking problem. He constantly drained funds from his businesses to support his vices, which showed in how quickly the hotel went from posh to the literal definition of a roach motel. I continued doing my job faithfully, despite the rapid downturn in overall appearance. My paychecks were still nice and I didn't feel as many effects of the downtown as other departments. About 6 months into the new ownership, the owner introduces me to his nephew and says that he wants me to train him to do my job so that I don't have to spend all day doing the landscaping for the property. The nephew seemed more concerned with playing Pokemon on his Game Boy than working, and even when I set him to simple tasks like raking leaves or watering flowers, I would often find him playing his Game Boy somewhere, or sitting in the lounge drinking with his uncle. I constantly complained about him to the owner, and told him that I had enough seniority in my position to search for and train a more suitable person to do the job. That's when the owner dropped the bombshell. His nephew was going to replace me in 6 months. He was only paying his nephew minimum wage, whereas I was getting nearly 3 times as much because of my seniority and how much the original owner loved me. At this point I realized that I was too expensive for him and he wanted to have more money available for his habits. I immediately started looking for a new job. I continued working at the hotel, but I didn't put as much effort into it. I showed the lazy nephew some basic stuff, but I pretty much left him to his own devices for the rest of the day. By the time I was asked to leave, the amount of neglect was overwhelmingly apparent. Poison ivy was growing around entrances, the normally well-manicured lawns looked like overgrown meadows. 6 months after I left, there was a massive fire in the middle garden because the nephew somehow thought the most effective way to get rid of the poison ivy and weeds in the mulch was to douse it in gasoline and light it aflame. He was stood nearby with a garden hose to put it out, but was swiftly overwhelmed as dry leaves and other material quickly spread the flames into the hotel itself. The fire department was called, the hotel evacuated. The nephew was arrested for arson despite trying to convince everyone that he fully intended to put the fire out with the garden hose after he got the desired effect. The owner was forced to sell the hotel and restaurant on the property to a franchise. He was eventually audited by the IRS and arrested for tax fraud. Today the property is bustling again. The restaurant was bought by a Mexican restaurant franchise and does decent business. The 2 side blocks of rooms that were damaged in the fire were torn down and turned into an outdoor banquet area for the Mexican restaurant. The main hotel has bounced back after the dickhead owner was replaced. The entire property barely resembles what it looked like when I worked there. Edit because of outrage. I have edited out the Pakistani descriptor since everyone thinks I'm being racist or xenophobic. There's only 2 things I remember about him. A, he was from Pakistan. B, he was a complete dick. So now you'll see dickhead owner instead. Sorry, it was not my intention to offend people.